Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel, Pin&Peeks. I'm Angela.
And I'm Deborah. And today we have a very special guest. Today we're talking to Robin, who is a mental health advocate, and she works with youth and kids. So today Robin's going to share her story and give some helpful tips and hints on how to manage anxiety and just some different mental health things. So welcome, Robin, and you can take it away.
Thank you guys for having me. So yeah, just as Devin mentioned, I'm a mental health worker. I work with children and youth. And it's quite interesting what has brought me to Sunshine City, really really kind of what got me into the field of mental health is my own story. So growing up as a child in elementary school, I guess you would say I was not the teacher's favorite, was constantly suspended, kicked out of class, was just that child that we all know of. But as I got older, I had realized that was me displaying different symptoms of depression and anxiety. So a lot of people don't know that it presents differently in youth. So experienced a lot of anxiety while I was in elementary school and whatnot. And once I entered into high school, you could say, I guess, a bit more of that depression piece clicked in. And although I guess you could say that like everybody kind of knew me and whatnot, that was kind of just all an act to kind of get through the day. So as I got older and, received the help that I needed through an amazing child and youth counselor, it kind of brought me to where I am right now today. Just helping youth that were once like me, that people just don't understand. Youth that are often missed, youth that don't really get the attention that they deserve. So I feel like a lot with my work, I bring that lived experience of knowing what it feels like. And so that's kind of briefly my story and what has brought me here.
Yeah, that's actually kind of interesting because like growing up for me, and then as I've gotten older, I worked at a lot of camps with children. And so one of the things that they always said, like, oh, the ones that are acting out, it's like, a lot of times they might be doing it for attention or like they're struggling. A lot of people hear that, but maybe it just kind of grazes over their head. They don't really think about it. They're just like, oh, they're the like kids that just, they want to push people's buttons or whatever it might be. That's kind of interesting that you said that.
Yeah, no, that is like, it's very interesting that you say that because a lot of my job, especially working with parents and in the schools, is to kind of eliminate that stigma that, the kids are doing it for attention and whatnot. Like just bringing up the attention piece, like for a good period of my life, one of my negative coping strategies was self-harm. And a lot of the times with self-harm and with cutting, a lot of people think it's seeking attention. So I can say 100% that it's not for seeking attention. Anybody that's acting out or misbehaving, they're not seeking attention. If anything, they're communicating that something is wrong. They just don't know how to express that they need help. So yeah, it's quite interesting. Yeah.
Why would you say that people self-harm themselves? Like, why does that happen?
Honestly, there's a variety of reasons, but I can just speak on my own experience. It was a release of emotions. Like I would get super anxious and emotional. Terminology would be of having difficulties regulating my emotions. But let's just do like real talk here. I was just anxious and I was having a hard time. And I found that whenever I did that act, it release that tension. However, just like, with substance use or other negative coping strategies, it's only temporary, right? So then you just become into that cycle. Well, this makes me feel good when I'm feeling really crappy, so I'm going to do it. But then it only lasts for a little bit of time. So everybody is different, but at least for myself, it was just that like too much was going on. Again, whether that was just anxiety or I'm just really ticked off or really frustrated. And it was just a quick way to release that emotion. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, like you said, then it's like once, it's like, you're never going to do it just once, really. Right. It's like, it's just temporary. So then when it wears off, you're like, oh man, like now all these thoughts are back in my head. I got to go do it again. And that just becomes like the pattern and the habit for so many people.
Yeah. Yeah. Big time. We're seeing that a lot, or at least within my work. I've seen like such an increase with individuals who are self-harming. And when I was younger, I'm not old, I'm not super old. But when I was younger, like I always just thought that it was just me. And again, back to that stigma conversation of thinking, it was only one race that mental illness affects and only one gender and all of those different things. So it kind of just already added to the loneliness that I was feeling at the time.
Yeah, and that's actually an interesting point, because I feel like a lot of people, they might not think it's like, okay, different races, they already have like privilege differences, right? Like whether people want to say they do or don't, the reality is they do, and that's not right. So it's like some people have this immense pressure on them already that it's like anything, it's just kind of like icing on the cake in a way. It's like a ticking time bomb that's just, it adds to it. So then you're like, oh, like no one can relate to me. And like, that's just so sad.
Yeah, you raise up a good point. Like a lot of the work that I found myself recently, I want to say recently, but I guess I'm doing it a bit more, is educating individuals within my community, so the Black community, on mental health. Years ago, when I started to become a public speaker with Tammy. So Tammy is talking about mental illness, and their organization in Durham region. So that's where I'm from, Ajax, Oshawa, Whitby. And we would go into schools and we would do presentations, and I would share my story and whatnot. And it's so interesting because what I found, again, I was the only Black female on the team. And what I was finding is that when all the presentations were done, when like the gym was empty, I was getting people from my community coming up to me. And there was that sense of safety and that security, because there was somebody that looked like them and that was going through what they were going through and could relate. Because even though we have come so far as a society, there's still that hesitant and there's still that fear and that lack of awareness around mental health, I think, within any community, whether you're Black, white, Chinese, whatever, right? Of seeking help and the importance. Like I try to tell people that our mental health is as important as our physical health. We do such a good job knowing, oh man, like for example, today I ate a poutine and it was a heavy poutine and I felt the burn. I felt the burn in my chest and I went for a 20-minute walk. But like, we know that we know, okay, like we got to keep our body healthy. We know we got to eat healthier and all this stuff. But when it comes to our mind, a lot of people don't know how to, lack of a better word, take care of that.
Yeah. And I guess also like your mind is always running too. So it doesn't even get that break. That's like when you're sleeping, your body is relaxed. It's not working, but your mind's always running. So
yeah, with anxiety, that is something that I struggle with. I struggled with it this morning. I woke up and I felt it. I was just like, I am like here and I just woke up. I should be here. And, but over the years, I've learned like I need to decrease my caffeine intake. I know that really spikes up my anxiety. And then I had a few presentations today and I knew I was coming to do this. So I've learned to kind of, what is actually making me nervous? What's making my mind continuously like keep racing? So what I did, and usually, and what I can do, I can tell you guys a few of the strategies that I'm using right now that I find really useful. But one thing that I did this morning, and it's a new technique that I'm trying, is I count backwards from 10. So I inhale, and then I say 10, when I exhale. And then I keep going 9, 8, all the way to 1. And then I start again from 1 to 10. And within that process, it allows for me to just focus on my breathing, but also focus on the numbers as well. Because when your mind is constantly racing, you're thinking about everything that could possibly be happening in a day. Another thing that I love doing, this, I guess, is the one thing about, working from home that I really like is, again, I'll go for my 20-minute movement breaks, because I know for me that movement is good for my depression and for my anxiety. So I'll go for a walk and I'll listen to music. I actually have on my YouTube channel, which I guess I'll talk about later on, a playlist, and it's titled Hope is Here. And it's all songs that are super encouraging. So I'll usually listen to that on my walk or whenever I wake up in the morning. Like, music definitely gets me motivated. And then I actually have it here. I will go to Dollarama in the summertime and I'll get these little, let's zoom in right there. These little silicone, they're not silicone. What are these? But anyways, they're these little ice things. And what's great, because a lot of the time, so one of the things that I practice is dialectical behavioral therapy, which is DBT. And there's this theory called TIP. And when you change the temperature of your body, it helps reduce the emotion that you're feeling. So this is really helpful for me when I'm anxious. And I specifically, let's zoom in again, chose this one because it's not like a box, like it has those different ridges. Mm-hmm. So it's like something to focus on as well in those anxious moments. And then it doesn't leave my hands wet, which is great. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's a little bit of what I'm doing right now, and just kind of how I guess, use different strategies to make it unique to me.
There you go.
How do you have ways that you can tell when your anxiety or depression's coming? Like, I know it's different for every person, but do you yourself know like common signs that kind of arise?
Yeah, it's definitely different for each person. And it took me a long time to like identify for me when it is. So I know when it comes to social situations, which is funny because people are always just like, I would never guess. Like, you just seem so confident. It's just like, no, I'm sweating right now. But so for me, like, again, I can use the example of this morning. I knew there was a lot of talking that I was going to have to do. Like, I had to lead something at work. I knew I was coming on here. So for me, I woke up this morning, my mind was racing, my heart was pumping, and I was just like, great, like, I'm anxious. And then I start to think, okay, what am I anxious about? I know social situations are a trigger for me. So I'm like, what do I have today that's going to cause for me to talk a lot? And then that's when I was able to pinpoint it. Sometimes with my depression, that's a little bit more, I still haven't mastered trying to figure out what is causing it to come on. I think more so I have mastered when I feel it, and then trying to do something about it the moment I feel it. And that's when, like, I'll try to get up and be active, or I listen to music and try to do something positive. But I haven't really been able to pinpoint why my mood would go low. But again, it's different for each person. You know, somebody could experience something traumatic and then they know why their mood has shifted.
Yeah. And that's kind of an interesting point you were kind of talking about earlier when you're saying like, oh, you want to go for walks. Like, I know for myself, especially like in the winter when it's gray, like 95% of the days, I'm just sad. You know, it's like, I like seeing the sunshine. Most people do, but it's like, just like opening the curtains or standing outside when it's like the sun is just beating down, like it just lifts it instantly in a way. And it sounds really weird, or maybe like obvious, like, of course you like the sunshine, but like, it really does help. And that's something like I just noticed more recently for myself. But yeah, like that's something that I know has helped myself too.
And like, you raise a good point, because there are steps that are taken before I get outside, you know, because it's hard some days. Like, let's just be real. It is hard. Like, especially today. Now the sun is shining on me, but before it was cloudy. So there's usually steps. And I have grace on myself, you know, if I'm not able to get up and do that walk, then just what you talked about, I will try to open up the curtains. If I cannot open up the curtains, then I'll try to just listen to some music. But there are those days where like I have to do it in steps to accomplish it because it can be hard.
It's just like you got to hype yourself up.
Yep.
And I was going to say, when people get like depressed, like a lot of things is they're trying to tackle big things at once.
Yeah.
And it's like a lot of like, if you're in bed and you can't move, like just get out of bed, like brush your hair or brush your teeth or get a cloth. And like, if you can't have a shower, just wipe yourself down. Like just those little movements,
those little goals. And what I do on my phone, like I have Google Tasks, and what I'll do is I haven't done it in a while. It's been about a month, but I try to every day write down 4 things, like in that process of waking up, 4 small things, just like what you said, Deb, like nothing that's really huge that I want done by noon. And each time I tick it off, it's just like a sense of gratification for me that like I'm doing something, I've accomplished. And for me, like these are basic things, like I'm going to wash my dishes. For other people, that might be too hard. And for some days, it's too hard for me to do it on that day. And when I check that off, like I feel good about myself. But yeah, it's important not to give yourself huge goals. And if you do have a huge goal, to try to do it in like little steps.
Yeah, like I know I'm kind of the same way. It's like you just cross something off, like it's like I'm gonna make my bed today. It's like something like so small that's like you do every day, but just like the satisfaction of like saying, oh yeah, I did that. Then it's just like, good on me, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, yeah.
I did that. And then kind of switching gears a little bit. So you're a Christian. Your faith has played a huge role in your story. So do you mind elaborating on that a little bit?
Oh my days. It has played a huge role. And it's interesting. I'll start off with this. I had somebody message me a couple of months ago and they said, I don't understand how you're still standing. And they're like, how are you making it through the day? And I had to sit, like, I knew what my answer was, but I had to sit and like really let it soak in, because my answer is and always will be Jesus, but then that's so simple. And I had to go through a process of understanding who God is and what Jesus did for me and my identity in Christ. Why do I say that? Because whenever I am feeling down, because I have had my low days, especially during COVID, and just knowing who my Father is, that He is for me, not against me, that He loves me and I'm wanted by Him. Without that foundation, what hope do I have? When I am really depressed and I feel like killing myself, and I don't remember that God views me as special, like that He is my hope, like these scriptures that I'll quote to myself, Jeremiah 29:11, things that we take, I guess, for granted. Like, I know the plans that I have for you, plans for good and not evil. Like when I'm in my lowest moments, for some reason, I will remember those scriptures. So it's interesting because it's always going to be my answer, because when I'm at my lowest and I have no hope at all, I'm like, no. Like, Jesus is my hope. And for everybody, I know it won't be the same answer, but it goes back to that process I had to go through of understanding my identity in Christ. And then also knowing who God is, like not what our churches have been preaching, not what a song's going to tell you, but that one-on-one personal relationship with Him. Like sometimes I will, like my relationship with the Lord is so different than like even 4 years ago. Like that intimacy is there to the point where like, I'll hear when he's speaking to me, you know, like in my low moments where I'm crying and stuff like that, he will say like, remember my daughter, my promises are yes and amen. And that has helped me. So even prayer, you know, we think that prayer is just, oh, somebody's like, okay, I'm going to pray for you. Do we really pray? Like that, it's been a pathway of communication with my Father and not holding back what I'm feeling, because he already knows. He already knows, like, God, I'm really depressed right now. Like, I don't know how to get out of bed. Can you help me? Those are my prayers. You know, can you help me get out of bed? Can you give me strength? Actually, one of my favorite songs by Melissa Hessler is called Strength. And every time I play that song, no matter what mood I'm in, my strength increases. So yeah, faith has played a big part. What's been interesting now is that I've been able to go into different churches and, you know, speak a bit more about mental health, because I think even as a church, we are coming to understand a bit more about mental health and mental illnesses and, you know, just treating everyone equal. So sometimes I look at my life, like a lot of the negative experiences I've had has been an opportunity to be a light in an area. So that's kind of where faith is for me. It always, like I said, Jesus, it will always be him.
Do you find that like people don't go to counselors enough? Like as a counselor yourself, you find people like they're so anxious to go to a counselor.
Oh, that's a two-part question. Let me answer it in 2 parts. Yes and no. I'll say yes, some people don't want to go to counselors because they have, like, I made sure I didn't put on my glasses for this, because we know there's that like stereotype that counselors and wear their glasses and all that stuff. And you're not sure what to expect. Like when I started counseling when I was a teenager, I had no idea, because, you know, the films and what everybody's talking about, you don't know what it's going to be like. Then there are the people that do want to, but just where our mental health system is right now, there's such a wait list. So unfortunately, sometimes that kind of defers hope, to be honest. But I do find that a lot, that people, they're not wanting to go to counseling. And it's just because, at least from my experience, it's that discomfort and not knowing what to expect. So a lot of the times within my work, because I know what it's like to be on the other side of the chair, I bring in those different thoughts and perceptions. And even like within my community, I know there's a wait list for certain things. So if I'm able to help somebody while they're in that waiting time, then I do it. You know, if you have CPR, if you're a nurse and you see somebody that's hurt, you're going to help them. So I'm trained in mental health, counselor, mental health first aid and all that stuff. Somebody's in crisis, I'm going to help them, because at least I know, yeah, I can send you here, but you're going to be waiting for a time. So, yeah.
And kind of what you were saying before, like back to like the church, do you think that there's the stigma around mental health in the church, like pray it away? It's like, yes, God can take it away, but where do you kind of stand on that? Just with the people that are like, oh, you don't need therapy, you don't need counseling, just where do you stand?
There's a big stigma that we need to address. And I feel like COVID has started to address that in the church, because now at the end of the day, we all have mental health. We all do. So I don't want to say, oh, you know, now people are struggling, people are struggling a bit more, but it's just that now it's becoming more apparent, the mental health. And there is a big stigma, like going back to what you were saying about, you know, you can pray it away and all that stuff. And who am I to say what God can and cannot do? You know, have I seen people have breakthroughs? Yes. However, we need to be mindful that when we say that, it's almost, and it doesn't happen, it's almost making it seem like that person's relationship with the Lord isn't great, or they're weak in some areas. Like for myself, I've been like, this was years ago, like, God, I know you can heal. Why haven't you healed me? You know, they're saying to pray it away. You spend all this time praying and praying. You feel so terrible. Like I've cried, felt so terrible. And then I realized, okay, God, this is still here, but you're using it for your glory. All of those times I've been praying, all those situations, I'm like, why did I have to go through it? I'm using it now for his glory. I'm using it to help other people and whatnot. So actually, I'm not weak. I'm strong, not weak at all. I'm strong. And what's interesting, and even though it's happening, I think we should still be aware that, yes, the church is kind of moving towards now addressing mental health, but they're doing it from a coach phrase. And I think with that, we need to be careful that we're still not stigmatizing things. Like, why don't we want to say a counselor? Why don't we want to say psychologist? But we're not afraid to say, oh, we have a coach. We have a care team, you know? Why can't we just say counselor?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's a new trend that I'm seeing. I'm like, I'm still a counselor. You're just calling yourself a care team, but you know, but yeah. So to any of those people that are thinking like, man, I just need to pray this way, like there are biological things as well. And medication can help balance things out. So God doesn't want to see you suffering when he's just like, yeah, there's this thing that can help you. You know, he doesn't want that for you. And if you're feeling like you're weak or you're less than because you're still going through this, I want to let you know that you're not. You are strong, and God is going to use it for his glory, and he already is.
Yeah, I think that's a really good thought. And like also just you being a walking testimony to it too. It's like how I've thought about it. It's like God knows what's going to happen. He knows what we're going through. But then at the same time, it's like, if we got every single thing we wanted, then where does your faith really come into play? Because it's basically you're treating God like a genie in a way, you know? So I think that's a really interesting point.
Yes, definitely a genie in a way. But again, it's going back to that identity piece that God, you still love me. Even when I'm crying and snotty, you know, I still have my scars from self-harm, which I've hated. And God's like, I still love you.
He loves a hot mess.
He loves a hot, let me tell you, there have been times I've been a hot mess. Yeah. And he has loved me same way. And that's why I love him. Like, man cannot give us the kind of love that the Father can. So
Definitely. Do you find Bell Let's Talk helpful? And do you find just like friends randomly reaching out helpful?
I used to find Bell Let's Talk helpful. And the reason why I say that is because when they started, it was around a time where we still weren't talking a lot about mental health. So I saw like people opening up more and everything. But I think now as a society in Canada a bit, we've kind of moved up a little bit, which is good. So it's kind of just seeming like another, oh yeah, it's Bell Let's Talk kind of thing. But before something was getting out, like we were getting something out of it, at least for myself, like years ago. Now, I don't mind. It's funny because my friends will be like, I was just so nervous. I didn't know if I was supposed to message you or not. And I'm actually going to do a video on this soon about the importance of just asking people how they are. Like, it's not like you have to go into a whole counseling session or whatnot. It's just, hey, how are you? Thinking of you. Like, for example, I don't know if I could share this, Deb, but last week I was at work and I was walking and man, I was so exhausted. I knew I needed to take a break. Like my mind was like, if you don't sit down, and God was like, girl, if you don't sit down. So I closed my office door, I locked it, and I sat down. And I was like, man, I'm so tired. Like, and I was starting to feel mentally exhausted. And I was just like, I don't know if I can go into this next meeting. And then Deb messages me and she goes, hey, just checking in to see how you're doing, because I knew that you had mentioned that this day was going to be stressful. And in that moment, I needed that because what I felt was the peace of God. Mm-hmm. So I tell people all the time, don't be afraid to just message people and ask them, hey, how are you doing? And when they respond and you don't know what to say, don't make up a fart answer. Say, I don't know what to say right now, but I'm here and I'm listening. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of the times when I'll do presentations in the schools, the kids will be like, what is the best advice? So that's my little like kid voice. What's the best advice that you can give to people that want to help their friends? And, you know, they're expecting me to give them this long list. And I say, just ask them how you can help them. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the times people won't know how they need help. So then your next response is, okay, well, I'm here if you need anything. And I'm always here to listen. But I think sometimes we try to be the helper too much, right? And it's not what the person needs. Sometimes we just need you to be present. Sometimes your presence is just enough, you know? But yeah.
Yeah, like sometimes they just need to vent, and it's like, like we all have those friends that you can just sit in a car with them and you can be sitting in a parking lot for hours, just like listening to what they have to say. Because sometimes, and I think especially now, well, I guess the last year with COVID, it's like you might not be able to see as many people. So it's just like having that message or text or phone call or whatever it is to be like, hey, like I'm thinking about you. How are you doing? But being genuine, not like, because I feel like a lot of times you see someone that you know, you're like, oh, hey, how's it going? But like, do you really care how they're doing? It's just like a habit to say.
Do you care?
But like,
just like how we say, I pray for you. Are you praying?
Yeah. So I think that's a really good idea. It's like, you know, be genuine. Mm-hmm. Like if you don't know, like if someone like spills their heart to you and you're like, whoa, like, I don't know what to say. It's like, don't make something up. You know, just
don't ghost them.
Yeah.
I think that's really the reason why people don't reach out is because they're so scared they don't know what to say.
Yeah. And it's like okay to say, I don't know what to say, but I'm here and I'm listening. Keep going, girl. Keep ranting. You know?
So we want to thank you so much for coming on this episode. And I know that you have a book, you have a blog, you sing, you do it all. Boy. Like you started your own ministry. So
oh boy,
take a few minutes and just talk about yourself.
Well, I'm Robin. I write, I speak, and I love. I have an Instagram page that is at Censored Reality. So CENSORED reality, REALIT. But you can find all the information about me at robinsimpson.ca. I've written a book called Moving Forward, and it really touches on that identity conversation that we spoke about earlier on. I love music, love guitar. That also has been my therapy. Yes, I do have a ministry, Overflow Ministries. So when I was back in Durham, I facilitated a lot of prayer walks. I have a passion for youth and young adults, and just knowing that there doesn't seem to be quite an interest anymore with some certain things. So I really try to engage youth and living for Christ and what that looks like. Yeah, if you want to learn more about me, just go to robinsimpson.ca. Feel free to email me. I'm an open book. I love chit-chatting with people and whatnot. So yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to have all your links down below. So
okay.
For people. Yeah, just click the link down below. And for any viewers that are out there watching, we just want to say, if you enjoyed this conversation, if you want to learn more about things that you can do for your children or for your friends, like warning signs or how to help people manage it, that's going to be our next video. So make sure that you're subscribed to our channel, because Robin will be back. She's going to be spewing more wisdom on us, sharing her tips and tricks. And yeah, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe, ring the bell, do all those things on YouTube that people tell you to do. We hope you enjoyed it.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Bye.